Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events installed. We're moving the clock right along. This is still obviously the build-up phase. Okay, destroyer cruise training. This is important because we will be using a lot of those small motor torpedo boats and torpedo boats there. I think we're going to go with it's surface spotting, but there's surface detection, but spotting technology. Yeah, we're going to keep at least one tech slot or whatever bouncing around through here to upgrade these. Now let's go in with diplomacy. I was thinking about this before. I want to see, because we're going to have a bunch of factories coming online here, and they're going to eat up our materials, and we're building up the stockpiles. So let's see if we can buy just one from these countries. Ones that are likely to become our allies, that we want to get them in earlier. Finland, they could use some money. Let's see if we can buy two from them. Man. Or no. Iraq, maybe Iraq. No. Should be able to buy one from Italy. Japan. Let's go Romania. Saudi Arabia. There's somewhere on YouTube a Let's Play that someone made playing as Sweden, and he modified the game and added a bunch of events. I tried to get a copy of what he modded from him, and the events were based on, and I wanted to really take a good look at him. He was from Sweden. And I only watched part of it, but various real historical National Socialist events that if they went a different way, because Sweden didn't go National Socialist obviously, but there were several incidents that happened in Sweden. I forget what they were. I messaged him a few times, but he never responded. Will they buy a supply? No. Because I wanted to get a copy of those. They buy a supply. Yeah, we'll just sell one. And this is long before I got anywhere near to releasing TRE. But he dealt with several historical events, if I remember correctly, including some military government, like a coup attempt or something like that failed historically, but, you know, for the mod he supposed, well, what if this had happened, you know, it succeeded or something like that, just to be able to put an alternate path for Sweden to potentially join the Axis if certain things, and I'd have a random chance not likely to happen, so that most of the time, you know, you don't get them. But oh good. But it would be sort of nice maybe once in a while to have Sweden come into the war on your side. Yeah, I really like some alt history things if they're based on fact and you can pinpoint where the if this event would win a different way and why it would potentially go a different way, and then follow the event chain down that. I'm happy to do something like that because it you know, we're obviously looking back at World War II, you know, in hindsight, but you know, no guarantee. We're going to leave this because they're both 1936. Excuse me. Technologies, and we want to improve those tactics. And so I want a little bit of dynamic potential. But I don't want them just sort of vaguely random gamey effects that, you know, don't have a historical basis. You know, things like Republican Spain joining the Axis. I've often thought, and I don't... Oh, good. The nationalists have cut Republican Spain in two. It looks like von Thoma's unit, because that's a Kampf Group A and motorized infantry. So I think that's von Thoma right there that we're seeing off the coast. Wave height of von Thoma. What's good about this, obviously, is either Spain will need to supply by sea, and if you're a Republican and if the nationalists get out here with the submarine that they have there and do some convoy raiding, they will kill their convoys, force them to build more, or if they don't do that, they will eventually, you know, choke off supplies. Partisans, I think, don't need supplies, but their regular units will. You aren't going to win with just partisans. Okay. Okay, so we just had that happen. Waiting for that, so, but until then we'll do light bombers. We have a national decision. Bank for International International Settlement, the Swiss. Okay, so just by clicking this, we'll get 5% IC bonus, 5% leadership bonus, and we'll get the event as well. So we want to do that. Then we can do the not worth it, but what we're gonna do here is that which will get us another 4% ICs, 3% leadership, money, lose some supplies ongoing, fine, part of the cost, 4,000 supplies down, but we'll gain $600 there. So that's great, we'll do that. Now we will also go in, take this time to look, switch over to this. I don't think there's any, but I just want to check. Make sure we are maximizing that potential for each of these provinces that we're building in. Okay, well then we'll just do a little more dispersal factories around Berlin. Now, stuff out here in the east. Let's just this is all we have. Okay. I wish they would. My big wish is that they had included railroads for Hearts of Iron 4. And my suggestion was the Podcat was simply zero level railroads, and then 1, 2, and 3 for different actual levels of railroads, and not draw the lines that this province connects to this province connects to this province, but just simply the level of railroads in that province. And because obviously you could have railroads going here and then another one coming here and they're not connected this way. Well, instead of trying to draw them all out, just are there railroads in that province? Yes, no. And if yes, you know, something like Berlin obviously would be level 3, highly developed, you know, and a single railway system cruising through somewhere in Yugoslavia, you know, sort of minimum, that'd be level 1. So for moving supplies along on a much more rapid manner as well, and though their supplies move through their states, not their provinces. Not too sure that I'm fond of that, but and the other thing is to force or to only allow strategic redeployment along railway paths. It has to start, stop, and travel along railways. In other words, you can't do strategic redeployment. That was my idea for that. But I also wish there was a bonus for industry in provinces with navigable rivers, because they were major ways of moving goods in this period, and some of them still are, I think. They are not as fast as railways, but they're very cheap in manpower and you know, generally in power at all. So cheap ways of moving bulk goods around, and so I like that for a little added realism. Not that something, you know, you talk, oh, this is a war game, you know, not an empire building game. True, but still, you just build in a few of those things, and most players could just ignore them if they don't want to worry about that. But I guess, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I literally am just thinking about this, you could do a black ice thing, and well, then again, industry is now state-based. I'm very much maybe thinking that maybe somebody will make a mod that changes the map to each province equals a state instead of that, so that industry would be based upon, and things would be based back in effect on provinces. But what you could do is create a building, and this would work in Hearts of Iron 3, though I know they're not, I guess they have 2 empty slots here though, so they're not planning on adding any more buildings. But you could add a building called a river. Is that deep mud and snow? Oh, that's what that is probably. But it's only in some province to get it. No. Would be a building called a river, undamageable. That would just be a sort of like heavy industry capacity in there, that just tweaks it up like a 10% bonus. So, you know, if you have 10 ICs, having it in the province, an ice, you know, in a river province like these, it's now equal to, you know, 11. And, you know, obviously 1 would be equal to 1.1. So it's not like a major bonus, but a minor thing. That's what I would do. That's what I would do if I were, and TRE isn't going to be doing this because I'm not a major, the mod isn't designed to majorly structurally rechange the game, but that's, just had that brainwave, okay. Supplies, money, okay. Okay, Bank for International Settlement has increased our amount of technology slots. I'm going to put it to more infantry guns here. And we have another sort of half a slot, a little more. Excuse me. Okay. Money for rare materials, sure. Sure. No, thank you. Right now I'm of the opinion that if Luxembourg has extra rare materials, fine, let them build up. I'll be invading them eventually. Again, I'm just taking their whatever stocks they may have. Oh, and I was going to say, sorry, I got distracted looking down here when I saw this. I think it would be an interesting thing to mod for Republican Spain winning. I would like to have them, and it would be an interesting mod to do. I had one person, sometimes it frustrates me a little bit. Sometimes people, hey, yeah, I want to, work with you and build, some events. Some people are great, like Vlad, who just sent me something again today, and I haven't. I don't know. By the time you see this, it'll be a few days ago. I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. Some people follow through and they send me all kinds of stuff, and it's great. And I almost have trouble keeping up with all of it because of various real-life commitments and trying to, do this series as well as mod my stuff. Other people, yeah, I want to do this, blah 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 blah, and then they disappear. I understand, totally understand that this is a oh good, they got a pocket going here. It's totally voluntary, and if real life happens, it happens. I just wish people would say, hey, I wanted to continue working on this, but I got this other stuff I got to do. Well, that's great, that's fine, but most just fade. But to do a nationalist Spanish mod, sort of for playing as Spain, or as national Spain, but obviously would still run. Anyways, but what I would like to do is have one, if the Republicans win, and just if the Republicans win, to have two paths that it would go along. One would be, and base it somewhat on, greater involvement of Britain, but particularly France, in supporting the Republicans, because obviously they share a border, whether openly or covertly smuggle large amounts of arms into Republican Spain. And if they go in, they would be primary influence on that. So I have a few events during the war that would then bring Spain into the Allies along with France and Britain. So at the start of the war, Republican Spain is in the war, and have it set up. If somebody wants to do the work, I consult with them a little bit. Have it set up. One of the big things that I would want to set up is an expeditionary units to France, because if Republican Spain just joins the Allies and goes to war, it's sort of leaving itself open, in that if it, they keep all their forces on the border here, when Germany's done taking France, it'll just keep on moving and it won't stop it. And that way, it doesn't really necessarily add a lot, because they don't have a large navy or other elements. But if they moved in, I don't know that they'd be moving in the armored divisions, but if they moved in some infantry divisions and some militia divisions into France to fight the battle in here as a significant expeditionary force, or even just, allowing the defense along here, that could have an effect on the outcome, or if nothing else, just makes it more of a challenge for Germany to take it. The other option would be is sort of the historical path that I think that we're going down, and I've talked about this, of the Soviet influence in Republican Spain. If that, theoretically continues with this possibility, and make it set up for the AI that for both Spain and France and also Britain, some of these events that would happen that, I know I'm talking probably too much about this, but I'm thinking about it right here. Sorry, you can skip forward if you want. Like only a 20% chance of doing a large commitment, meaning supplies, basically units that are made up of volunteers from their nation to come in, allow local recruiting drives and well supplied units to come in, in there, but an 80-90% chance of not doing that, going down the historical path, so the nationalists win. But if they go down, if they pick those, and obviously if you're playing as Britain or playing as France, the human player could choose those. And the other, similarly for the Soviet Union, a lot of Soviet volunteers, because obviously the volunteers would be told to volunteer, but you could put a fairly large force in there. And if they win, and if you go down the more historical path that Britain and France doesn't take and doesn't neutralize Soviet influence here, Republican Spain joins the Comintern. So that sets up another interesting situation here. So that, because my standard thing, and if it went this way, and I say, I think it's like three serious games, 2 or 3 serious games I've played that had the Republicans win, and all the rest of the time the nationalists win. But every time that the Republicans win, I just simply take France, form Vichy, and then just right down this corridor, immediately drive into, the only pause I have is, and the only thing that sort of makes it a bit of a challenge is, I don't move the whole force in there because you have limited supply lines, because you got to supply them down this corridor. I also normally run supplies out of one of these French ports into there once I take it. So you're limited on the supply lines, and so that makes it a challenging fight. But I have yet to lose against Republican Spain. So if they're in with the Allies, like I was saying, it's just a continuation of an attack. But if they're part of the Comintern, you can't attack them. You can't declare war on them without going to war with the Soviet Union. So that sort of changes the game. You can't take them off piecemeal, either whether they're neutral or part of the Western Allies and pull off there. You can only attack them when you're ready to attack the Soviet Union. And so, like when I come in here with limited forces, it's normally 2 armored corps, 10 armored divisions, that's a lot. And sometimes I'm able to get some mountain troops down in there quickly enough, because I pause enough to make sure, get the forces reorganized and everything else. But it's within the month or so I'm attacking. Sometimes I will have the ability to shift over some mountain units, because Spain has a fair number of mountains that can be challenging, and hills, so, or light infantry units, or both in here to move in. Well, 2 armored corps pulled off from the Eastern Front, and if you look at 1 or 2 more corps of mountain troops or infantry coming into Spain, that's 4 corps not operating here. You don't really want to put in your some of these event given sort of crappy divisions that you can form to defend here and send them down in there and leave this entirely undefended. So you know, it becomes another front. Now, obviously, you can hold this. It's like 2 provinces wide forever as Germany against a communist Spain, so long as they don't decide to, you know, get Vichy France in the war. But that sort of puts out another whole interesting possibility that would be a very interesting and historically viable, but an alt history, you know. And it's just a simple alt history. What if Republican Spain won, and to have that what if happen would be either A, Germany and Italy not taking its support the Republican events, or just simply much larger, you know, open support from the Allies, or greater commitment, though it was fairly open, greater commitment from the Soviets, and that would quite potentially have the other, you know, the alt history happening, and we're not talking about something that's highly unlikely to have happen. I would say it's highly likely that would happen if they supported it. Yeah, not a lot of extra there, but well, it looks like they're getting their pocket maybe back open up for here. Looks like they're retreating there. Okay, bunch of events just happened. Okay, mobile unit combined arms has advanced. Training levels there. Okay. Let's increase morale there. And flying boat prototype has advanced. That happened fairly quickly. Do assault gliders just sort of get that technology out of the way. Okay, we've gotten good enough relations with Romania that we're able to ask them for the German-Romanian oil agreement to talk about this. This is very important for Germany. It secures the Ploetsty. There's Ploetsty. It's in here somewhere. Wait. Ploetsty. Bunch of whatever. A lot of oil coming in from there. That's very useful. We want that because the more we don't have to rely upon artificial means, the better we are with that. And it's sort of an automatic given that we get a bunch of crude oil and the improved relations with them. Okay, Kunst. Degenerate art. I'll tell you straight up, this sort of, I'm not just talking like impressionist art, but this sort of wacky surrealism and cubism, and I mean, I did take an art history course a long time ago, but I sort of can't rattle all this stuff off. It is very much not my taste in art. Yeah, if I was super rich, I might buy a Picasso just because everybody knows what a Picasso is. But I don't think I'm going to put a Picasso, just a poster on my wall for being, you know, a nice picture kind of thing, you know. So it's not my, yeah, cubism, dadaism, surrealism. It's not my thing, not what I'm going to put on my wall, so I don't like it. But God, I don't think it should be banned, or I don't even think it's degenerate. I just think it's sort of wacky. sort of my personal taste, but whatever. The Nazis labeled it degenerate. I think it was, and maybe even says in here, Goebbels and a few others actually sort of liked the artwork, but once Hitler sort of, and there were some of the other high-up Nazis didn't like it. When sort of Hitler came down, they all got on board and went after this. But they put together first one, and then multiple years, and they had a traveling art exhibition running around Germany with all the confiscated art that was just supposed to show off to, the people. This is the stuff you shouldn't like, kind of thing. And but it turned out to be a really, really popular exhibit that huge crowds flooded to, and I think a lot of people were going to see it because they liked it, not because this is examples of what degenerate people like. Un-German, it's Jewish, and or communist. No, it was just wacky people. Now that you could have not just very realistic paintings, you can have photographs. Why try to do realistic paintings? Well, because I like that style, but other people wanted to experiment. Fine. So this some way backfired on them, but they ended up using it. What they did though is they confiscated a lot of this stuff, and then we'll take the tour here. And then at some point they started trying to sell it overseas quietly. The art market, I gathered from reading about it, was a bit mushy, so they didn't quite make as much as they thought they would. But to raise funds internationally, talks about some of the artists there. There's, you can see in the first one, it was Hitler going to the exhibit in 1937, and they valued theoretically at like 300 billion Reichsmarks for the hyperinflation era, but it wasn't that much. It was this flyer from it, some more examples of that stuff. So it's just sort of, I wanted to show off what they thought was degenerate. I just think it was oddball. So yeah, okay. And they, the 1937, and this, and I want to make some more art events too, and I just haven't been collecting a lot of material. But there was also an official good, huge art exhibition that, some of the reportings, and I don't know how accurate it is, the degenerate art were getting more views than the big national art review thing, or more people were coming to the degenerate than the regular. But it was so popular, it was meant to just sort of be a one-off kind of thing, that they brought it back and changed the collection out in 1938 and 1939. So they continued this on. So it's sort of an interesting thing. Okay, Hermann Göring work. Hope I got that spelled right. Was that an S? I think so. It was a education department set up as part of it to go around as basically a training element for improving training levels of industry workers. Basically taking low-skilled people and trying to train them to get better skills. So this just gives us, and this is just one event, but talks about but figure from here on out through the end of the 4-year project is how I plan these levels out that gets improved some days. So that is, you can decide not to throw the supplies at it, but I'm going to. Inspector der SS Richtschule. Now, as I talked about earlier with the Ritter SA, there was a central headquarters, the National Socialist Ritter Corps, that officially all these organizations belong to, including the SS, but the SS basically ignored them. Unfortunately, that fat guy, Christian Weber, that guy here walking behind Himmler, was a rather odious man. Was sort of a law unto himself to some degree in Munich area. He was one of the, the alt comrade the old comrades, but truly sort of an old comrade from the center of the Nazi clique. So he was sort of above the law there. And they talked about how during the Kristallnacht they took command of some SS group, or SS men, along with Fenglin, and where they ransacked some Jewish noblemen and confiscated some other stuff. So rather odious person. But he was put in charge of the inspectorate of the SS writing schools, and the main one was here in Munich. The other one was up here near Hamburg, outskirts of Hamburg. So if you want to get, so I've changed it for when you can start activating SS cavalry units, you no longer, because Operation Marita invasion of Greece is what Black Ice triggers that availability to build them. I changed it to having this. So if you want the SS to form all the various historical cavalry units as well as be able to build their own, additionally, you need to have this school, so you've got to put out the supplies and support. And I also look at the supplies partially for supporting the units here, but also because of Christian Weber's sort of local empire building and exploitation. But so you got to do that, and you won't immediately be able to, I don't think, build the SS units. You have to have some other flags as well, the Waffen SS flags later on from Black Ice as it is. So yes, we're going to go with that path because we want to do this. Air bases, Northern Germany. Yes, we want to have those because we want the air bases in Northern Germany to be able to fly anti-submarine and anti-shipping missions there, as well as the practicals. So I think it's worth it because we're still rocking at 4.37. That should lower it, and this is going to happen almost within a few days as well. So that would readjust it anyways, and might not be as good. Since Christian Weber's group here. Okay. Weber C. We will attach it to SS Hauptstadt, the overall headquarters of the SS. So attach it there. Theodor Eicke. He's in the inspectorate for the Totenkopf. This is I hated the original. Who whoever made it, the original. You may have heard me talking about when it appeared in the last series. Event image, so I remade it, but otherwise this is a Black Ice event. So this is, we'll create the Totenkopf Standarten. The Death Heads detachment is most famously known for being the concentration camp guards, though they also had some other roles, and I'm still a little mystified between the obviously, like the Ritter SS were mounted SS, okay, but they weren't Waffen SS until later, but they were armed. The Totenkopf SS, which that's what these guys are here, they've got cartridge belts and rifles, so they're armed, but they're not Waffen SS, as in warfighting SS. But they're not Allgemeine SS, but they're armed, but they're not. Various things. So they're, like I say, their famous element is the prison camp guard elements, but they also did various other things. So, but we will take that event. Okay, the 4th International Aviation Show in Zurich. Aviation meeting, Zurich. slowly trying to get over. Yeah. Jerk, right? That, burn, Geneva. Oh, yeah, right up here. Pointed out to me by First George 1941, and I didn't make the event at first because I didn't have any good graphics, but then I found this really nice poster from it. Sort of nice modern art. Now see some of this sort of Art Deco kind of stuff. I like that, you know, not the wacky stuff of the degenerates, or so-called degenerate art. Period photo of the airport there in Zurich at the time. And so we have no need to go or go. We're going to go spend the supplies and money. Again, I look at this as a bit of a you know, promotion of, you know, we got to build our aircraft good plus a little industrial espionage. And it was also the finally put it together was, as I found in a British publication, an article covering the event, and which had some really nice photos. So that's what finally put it over. All these photos are from that event in Zurich. Vidonier, that would be that one there, of course. That would be Asif Heinkel. So, but also Italy, Switzerland, France, and Czechoslovakia, which attended it significantly. There was very little British participation, and the article really bemoans that. They also get positive benefit from that too, so it's not just you. Not der Amazonian. This was part of Christian Weber's little Bavarian Empire. Money. Bavarian, or Munich. Well, Munich is in Bavaria, of course. Thing. His yearly. Didn't have very good photos or anything from the 1937 event. There was an award from it. You can see the flyer there for it. His sort of. It was, you know, a beer party, but they did really start to work to add pre-Christian elements to take over from the Christian viewpoint, and that was an underlying message, you know. Sort of the overt was, hey, come and drink a lot of beer during the day. It was a lot of horse racing because he was a horse racing fanatic. And at night, as you notice, the statues often are always include women on horses. You know, come and drink the beer, but the sort of subcontext was this sort of pre-Christian revival. But hey, it's a popular party. And here's him there, awarding prizes of statues and tapestries and all that stuff. He being the party master. Vanderbilt Cup win. Bernard Rossmeyer there, winning the Vanderbilt Cup in the U.S. All German drivers. So, but he was also a member in good standing in the SS as well as the National Socialist Motor Corps, the NSKK. All the drivers had to be a member. You didn't have to be a member of the party, but all of them had to be, you know, a member of that organization. But he went the step beyond and was also a member of the SS. So he was a National Socialist. Okay, what is it? Money for oil. Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to end it there. I'm having too much fun playing, but we're going to come back very soon and have another day at this. Thanks very much. Please post your comments. Really appreciate all you people liking the videos. It's really helpful. Thanks so much.